Hi everyone. This is an extra video to sort of help, because I know obviously my previous video focused on a film that didn't fall into our set genres from the brief. So I'm hoping by talking about some of the genres that you have taken on board in class, this might help. So this is again for the section on subverting the codes and conventions of the genre. So just as a bit of a recap, you guys chose a genre from the set selection from the brief. So whether it was fantasy, sci-fi, superhero, etc., you really need to be a bit of an expert in that particular genre in order to write your report. So you understand what makes that genre, what elements fall within it. So like the example says, a fantasy is sort of anything that's unreal, magical, supernatural. The 1917 example I gave you was a war film, so anything that fell within war. So the battles, goodies versus baddies, military, uniform, paraphernalia, etc. When it comes to the wording, subverting means to usually go against, but in this section it might not only just go against the expectations of the genre, it might actually be that it does something a little bit unusual or different or interesting from what we typically expect from that genre as well. And in that sense, it's to do with codes and conventions, and that really is just another way of saying kind of like the rules and expectations of what you expect from the genre. And Rosie says hello. Okay, so quite a few of you did the teen drama genre, a great genre to have chosen, because you guys really are the primary target audience. And when it comes to this genre, the things that we typically expect in terms of codes and conventions are that the teenagers are the main characters, and that is despite the fact that a lot of the actors playing the teenagers might be a little bit older, but that's fine, and we've talked about that before. It might be that the settings are really realistic, so it's stuff like being set at home in the teenager's bedroom, in a school setting, so classrooms, hallways, cafeteria, playing fields. It might be set in a place where teenagers congregate, so maybe some kind of cafe or diner. The storylines are always really true to life, so stuff that either you're going through yourself or that you might be really aware of. So friendship issues, relationship issues, stuff going on at home, trying to make sense of identity, that kind of stuff. So a really great realistic genre. And my three examples of how I feel they subvert the codes and conventions of the genre, I apologise, are maybe a little bit old for you guys, because I am not the primary target audience of current teen drama films. But nonetheless, these are films that I would have watched when I was a teenager, sort of in the late 90s, early 2000s. The first film is 10 Things I Hate About You. This is the one I was using as an example in my reports that I was doing alongside you guys. I love this film. I've seen it dozens and dozens of times, and it fits everything I would expect with the typical codes and conventions of a teen drama. The teenagers are the characters. They put forward the storyline. They carry it on. It's all to do with relationships and dating and that kind of stuff. What I think I really love about this film, and this is how I feel like it subverts the codes and conventions sort of in a really strange way, is because the film is actually based on an old Shakespeare play from hundreds of years ago. So if anyone's heard of a play called The Taming of the Shrew, I think that's a really interesting sort of way that they've taken an older play and they've adapted it to fit a modern day teen audience. I think that's really clever. So that's what I would put into that section if I was doing that on my report. Yeah. Thank you. And the next film, the next two films, I think, are a little bit more difficult to try and place within this section. But whatever kind of nugget you've got, really try and go with it, because to show that you think it does something a little bit different is a great addition to this particular report. So when it comes to Mean Girls, you've got the character of Katie, played by Lindsay Lohan. Yeah. And she is she's the good guy in the beginning, and she becomes friends with the mean girls, and it's quite clear who the goodies and the baddies are. But what's really interesting is that Katie becomes almost a mean girl herself. She becomes a baddie, and we stop rooting for her halfway through the film. So I think that interesting contrast is what I would put into this particular section. I think it subverts our typical expectations of the storyline. With regards to Legally Blonde, again, I'm really trying to sort of hold on to some kind of nugget, to be quite honest. Um, Legally Blonde is an American film where they really play on the stereotypes of Reese Witherspoon's character. So she is like a ditzy blonde, and she wears pink, and she's interested in fashion and makeup and all the sort of like non-serious topics, I guess. But they throw her character sort of right in the deep end in complete and utter contrast. And she doesn't just go to some college to learn some kind of subject. You know, Harvard Law School is pretty prestigious when it comes to American education. And to have that kind of contrast, I think is really interesting. So you could, in a sense, put that into the subverting codes and conventions section if you felt like it fit there, to be honest. Any questions on the teen drama section, or if you've got an idea and you're not quite sure about it, please email me, because that's what I'm here for. A few of you have been running ideas past me, or I've been reading through a section, and that's fine. Even if it takes me a day or a couple of days to get in touch with you, just email me. The other genre that I have chosen to just go through with you is the superhero genre, because I know quite a few of you have chosen these particular three films. And I am by no means a superhero expert. In fact, I don't think I've seen any of these films, but I know enough about them to sort of steer in the right direction about how they go against what we might typically expect. So quite a few of you are doing the Black Panther film. And this is a great film. I was talking to some of you about how this is one of the first kind of superhero films where a black main actor takes on the lead role. And actually, most of the characters are played by black actors as well, which is great. So I was talking to some of you about how the sci-fi genre started to do that sort of in the 90s with Will Smith, and there were quite a lot of sci-fi films where he took on the lead role. It sort of wasn't usually expected, but that is what I would put into my subverting codes and conventions section in this. There's quite a lot of literature out there, like articles about how he's been chosen and how it's slightly different to sort of our superhero films that we expect. But that's, if you wanted to do a little bit of research on that, that's where I would go when it comes to Black Panther. Definitely add that in. The Suicide Squad film is again quite interesting. Obviously, it's a bit of a spin-off from sort of the Batman kind of storylines, and obviously it's made by DC Comics. But really simply, the baddies are sort of the goodies in this kind of film. We follow the characters of the bad guys in the storyline rather than it being the other way around. So a really simple way to say how it sort of throws our idea of lead characters and therefore where the storyline goes. That's where I'd be going with that film. Quite a few of you have been doing the Civil War, Captain America Civil War film for one of your chosen films. Again, this is really interesting because obviously there's lots of different spin-offs with regards to Marvel films, and then sometimes they all come together as the Avengers, and that's all great. But interestingly, we've got a whole film about how the good guys are then split into two sort of camps. And I think, really speaking, we're supposed to side with Captain America, but actually haven't spoken to you about this film, a couple of you in class, about this film. Some of you are sort of on the Captain America side, and some of you are sort of on Iron Man's side. So it's really interesting. It probably instigates quite a lot of debate, gets people talking, maybe on social media and that kind of thing. I'm assuming there's some kind of resolution at the end. I'm not an expert in these films, but it's really interesting how they've taken the goodies as one collective group and then put in some kind of conflict, and then they're on sort of two sides opposite each other. So it doesn't need to be a difficult section, and it doesn't need to be very long in your report. It's just where you think it does something a little bit different from what we usually expect. So like I say, if you've got any questions or anything like that, then please email me, and I'll put these on YouTube for you to watch. Thanks, bye.